If you were ever looking for a time to get into weekly Shonen Jump series, starting to read them, now would be the best time to do it. To get a chapter like this, Chainsaw Man, My Hero Academia, Phantom Seer just recently released, and a couple of other series are really doing the absolute most in giving such an incredible weekly experience. Every single magazine, every single series is filled with so many twists and turns and such monumental moments that are very impactful back to back. In some ways, it can be definitely tiring, but if you enjoy these series, if you enjoy the experience of reading stuff weekly, and you're still potentially on the edge of diving into some of these other series more prominently, more deeply, I would highly recommend you do. It is the best time to start. Regarding this chapter of Kaisen, for me, the reason why it works so extremely well, the reason why it was so impactful and so powerful, is because I feel deep down in the back of our minds, we always knew something like this was around the corner. That the scale of this arc specifically, even leading into it, we knew some of the consequences, or we could at least grasp the concept of some of these consequences. And the further we progressed through the arc, the further we got with Gojo, the further we got with Megumi, with Yuji, seeing bits and pieces of Mahito and Geto, the bar was being raised exponentially. Such dangerous abilities, such dangerous people coming out to play like Toji, for example, and not really being sure on who would make it out alive, who would be safe between all of this. To top it all off, you have Sukuna coming out to play in the recent chapters and showing off just how incredibly powerful he truly is, and this isn't even him at full power. I want to say a massive percentage of people knew that Nanami was on the chopping block for quite some time. Leading into this arc, everything that he's done for the story, everything that he's done for Yuji, if there was ever a time to give him such a powerful send-off, it would be within this arc. And I got a lot of respect for the author from detouring us away from that direction, not making it so clear, not making it so acknowledged. He played upon it a little bit, which was rather suspicious, but he shifted away from it completely, extremely quickly, and into much bigger things to overshadow that expectation. So you kind of just forgot about your nervousness surrounding Nanami. You somewhat just forgot about the nervousness surrounding potentially other characters, because now you're focusing on more specific and prominent characters like Megumi, for example, like Sukuna coming out to play, like Toji. So many different things, so many conflicting consequences, and the contrast between them weaves in and out beautifully. I absolutely adore how the author shifts from each individual character. This arc has been incredibly detailed. I want to say the majority of stories that would try and handle an arc like this, a lot of people may specifically be bored, that not much happens within the chapter, or at least not much is being progressed throughout the chapter. But the way the author is handling it, the way he's going about showing these emotions, playing on these very monumental powers is really engaging. And the more detail he puts into them, the more he slows everything down and allows you to absorb that information is a really prominent thing. Keeps you invested into these characters, into these events. It makes them much more efficient and utilized in a way that is extremely impressive. This chapter has probably been one of the fastest throughout the entirety of this arc, just with the amount that we actually go through, but in reality, it's pretty normal. It's not actually inherently quick or rushed through. If anything, it's perfectly paced to linger on specific emotions for just the right amount of time for you to understand what's going on with this character, with this emotion, with this mindset, and then moving on to the next thing. And they all lead perfectly into one another. We start off the chapter with Yuji, or should I say Sukuna, releasing control back to Yuji and showing the destruction that he has caused, showing the death, pain, and agony that comes from releasing Sukuna out into the world. The hardest thing about all of this is because of this massive devastation and power being used, Yuji sees all of it unfold. All of the memories, all of the depictions of people getting brutally murdered and injured comes flooding back in. And it makes him have this self-realization within himself, why people want to execute him at the beginning of the story, why Sukuna is such a scary individual that people would twist and turn and become malicious from a certain perspective to take him out. That was something Yuji didn't understand at the beginning of the story. That's something we didn't understand at the beginning of the story. So to have the first portion of this chapter revert us back to that and recontextualize all that meaning is extremely important. It's very impactful, and it's done with a lot of finesse, to be completely honest. It's both detailed but simplistic. It doesn't overwhelm you, you don't overthink things, it gives you exactly what you need to know, and that's it. Seeing Yuji go through these different stages of emotions, seeing him slowly break down and then cry and then becoming this hollow mess where he's trying to shove everything down and bottle everything together so he doesn't have to feel these very strong emotions at this current point in time, because he knows that the people still on the battlefield, the people still at play, the big hitters basically, are a first come issue. So at the same time, we're recontextualizing the beginning of the story and the meaning of Yuji being a martyr for Sukuna and for this very powerful curse. We also contextualize and bring Yuji up regarding his emotions and how he helps people before himself, how he suppresses his own emotions, his own feelings to hopefully make for a better future. I could probably continue breaking down Yuji's mindset and his emotional vulnerability to these situations and how he suppresses things for the betterment of other people for a very long time. But this was a beautiful showcase of the type of character he is, while also recontextualizing the meaning of his character, what he is alive specifically for right now, what the future of the story entails to him, what it entails for Sukuna, and the price that he may potentially have to pay by the end of it. To end it off on a more open-ended statement, there is a point right at the end of this opening segment with Yuji where it seems like he's balancing on the terms of killing himself to kill Sukuna, obviously, but then also saving the people around him, knowing that there's still Mahito, Gojo sealed away, and Geto still out and about doing things. There's still dangerous people that need to be defeated, and with his power he can still do it, at least give them a challenge. Balancing these two options, one death and the other one still very close to death because of how powerful these people are, is a very conflicting thing. And I feel like we'll see potentially a lot more of this as time goes on. Not necessarily in the most overbearing state, but enough for Yuji to create some sort of perspective for himself and to understand himself better, his own meaning, his own life, which is slowly coming full circle, which is obviously really great to see. When I went back and read this chapter, seeing Nanami in such a state is very saddening. It's a heartbreaking thing, but seeing him push forward, seeing him continuing to fight, even knocking on death's door, he is just relentless. And in all honesty, he's not the most prominent character within the story, but him being a guide and even some sort of father figure, very minimalistically, very portionally for Yuji, but someone that can show Yuji the ropes, someone that can help him and progress him further, to have this very slight fatherly son connection, this master student role with the type of attitude he upholds is a very powering thing for him. So seeing him push forward, seeing him get to his limits when this is something that originally he escaped from, something that he wasn't really bothered in doing, now it all comes back once again. It all comes full circle for his character to bring it to a very devastating but a beautiful conclusion. And the way it's sent off in this self-reflecting state is absolutely incredible. Not only does he reflect on himself, the steps he could have taken in the past, but also the people. More specifically, one of his friends that he worked with a very long time ago that also died. Haibara, I believe his name is, or however you pronounce that. A very small but simple panel of that character, and Nanami seeing him is emotionally exhausting. And seeing him point to Yuji running to him to try and save him was absolutely phenomenal. It was like a perfect send-off for him. And then Yuji witnessing Mahito completely eviscerate him out of existence. This is where Yuji's emotions start to boil back up, the ones that he somewhat suppressed portionally at the beginning. It's very loosely, it's not something that you can do in an instant where it's 100% confined in a certain place. It's very loose and volatile, and anything can make it crack and explode and erupt in every single direction. And seeing this obviously does that and amplifies it by 100. Because the sheer anger you see Yuji go through at the end of the chapter against Mahito is something that we haven't really seen before. We've seen very portional bits of it, stuff somewhat even teasing it, especially with the first big time he versed Mahito at the school. And this fight that is is about to go down, which I feel everyone seen coming in some way, shape or form, that somewhere within this monumental arc, Yuji and Mahito would go head to head to some degree. We didn't know when it was going to happen, and I was somewhat getting nervous if it was ever going to happen. But here we are, in probably the most engaging and impactful way you could lead into such a incredible fight. This chapter from start to finish was an experience, especially with how the author captured a lot of these emotions, how he captured Nanami, how he captured Mahito and Yuji, and just made everything blend and work together in such a beautiful, progressive way. Realistically, you could fly through this chapter in a matter of seconds, hell even minutes, but going back and indulging within the panels and indulging in the characters and the emotions makes it all the more powerful. Without a doubt, I am 110% excited for this Yuji and Mahito fight. I'm sure everyone is excited for this fight. This is something that has had a lot of context, a lot of build up, is most likely going to have a lot of interesting results, a lot of revelations, a lot of reveal of abilities, and really shapes not only the future of the story, but the climax of this arc most likely. I am wholeheartedly excited to see how this all goes down. So with that being said, let me know how you felt about this week's chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen. How do you feel about Yuji, Mahito, and especially Nanami? I'd really love to hear your thoughts. But I want to thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Drink plenty of water, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.